Our movie begins with Sarah going to the building, which has an apartment for rent, because she is looking for an apartment in which she lives alone, and she reaches the building, but when she enters it, she finds someone in front of her, who looks at his answers and tells her that the building is well secured with security belts and cameras. As Sarah enters the building, she sees a woman looking at the plants and looking at them. In front of her, an old woman named Ada comes to her. In front of her, Jerry, the building manager, welcomes her and tells her that she has complete freedom to watch the apartment. And then she writes her data so that if they settle on it. And you hear from him that pets are not allowed in the building. And no smoking too. And Jerry asks her why she moved. So she tells him that she is trying start a new beginning. Currently, she is staying in a hotel and needs an apartment to live in. And he asks her if she has a pet, so you disguise, but in fact, she has a nanny cat and she intends to hide him if she moves to the apartment. And she stays in the hotel with her cat, and she gets a phone from her father, and he asks her to go home again. She tells him that she is independent with her life and that she is now able to find a job in a law firm. And she will continue here on her own, and her father can't convince her to go home again, and he asks her to take care of herself, especially after the death of her mother. And the next day comes and Sarah goes to her work, and she finds her coworker, Lisa, who treats her boss badly, and they don't care. And you will be very impressed with her method, and you get to know her, and a phone comes to Sarah. She is informed that the building administration has settled on her so that she can live in the apartment. And you go to the building to transfer it, and she will be carrying her room in a box. And you enter it, and you find someone looking at her from afar, with one eye. And then she meets her neighbor Brian, and he introduces her himself and welcomes her to the building with them, and on the same day, he is in the building party that treats her, and all the neighbors gather in it, and Sarah brings her, and she meets Eddie, who introduces her to all her neighbors, and he meets her with a person named Lester, and she has a book because she reads it, and he tells her that this book changed his life, but she is afraid of it because of its appearance, and she refuses to take the book from him and breaks it, so he leaves her and walks away, and Sarah goes to Brian's side to tell him how happy she is that she won the apartment from the midst of all that they had, so he tells her that he praised her to Jerry by helping Eddie. Either she was dizzy, and after the party ended, Sarah went out and made her bed to rest and take her depression medication. So you find him finished, and she sleeps without taking it, but she hears strange sounds coming from the side of the precaution, and she guesses that it is the sounds of the old pipes in the precaution, and she passes her first night well, and the next day comes and she asks the pharmacy she deals with to talk to her as soon as they provide her medicine. She will have received her new mattress, and Brian offers to help her get her to her apartment. However, he enters the apartment so as not to see the cat and know that it violated the building rules. As the night comes and Sarah tries to sleep, she hears the sound of pipes again. She prefers to call her cat, but does not answer her. As for looking in the hall, you will find the shadow contagious in front of her. She immediately rises from her place. She goes to the hall and finds that her apartment door is open, so you close it quickly, and spit from the magic eye. You find that Eddie is contagious in front of her apartment. I look forward to it. Sarah to bring her back to her apartment, and she intervenes with him to help her arrange her medication appointments. In front of her, she sees the book that Lester wanted to give her. Sarah asks her if the strange young man gave it to her because he tried to hand her the same book at the party. What do you understand? That is not strange. He is sad, but his wife died of cancer soon. So it annoys Sarah that she said this to me, and she goes back to her apartment to sleep. However, the sound of the pipes disturbed her very much and frightened her from sleep. As for the second day, she finds that someone threw a paper from under the door for her, and when you open it, you will find it written in it. The law prohibits keeping pets in the building, and it is written by hand on the piece of paper that there are neighbors who have allergies and who curse them on the piece of paper. So look out to see who has this paper, and you see Lester standing far. As for approaching him, he will let her go and stay away. She meets Brahman in front of her, and he invites her to a party with him in the apartment at 7 o'clock at night, and if it works, bring it with him and the rest of the neighbors. Sarah agrees, and she goes to her work. And it seems that she is tired, and Lisa asks her about her fatigue. She tells her that she is not comfortable in her new apartment, and Lisa offers her that they get food and lunch together in her new apartment. And Sarah forgets Brian's party date, and you pass in front of his apartment, so he goes out to her too. Ask her when will she come? She regrets that she will not be able to come because she remembered that her friend was with her, and you apologize to him for attending. After they entered her apartment, she wanted to leave before her neighbor, who threw the paper at her, reported the room. They throw it outside, and then you won't find anyone to talk to. So Lisa proposes to her. She comes to stay with him in her apartment, and cut hold renting the apartment since it is not comfortable in it. After their night ends, Lisa goes into a hall to sleep for a while, and you wake up to the smell of smoke. So she opens her room door, and you find smoke in the hall. And the oven remains on and burns something, and you go towards him, and you find that on the cooker there is a building law that says that pets are not allowed in the building, and when you open the oven door, you find that her cat is the one who is burning, and before she screams, she finds a movement around her and someone is attacking her to prevent her from smoking and movement, and he immediately shoulders her in her dining chair. And she keeps screaming, and there is no one. He picks her up until she deceives the one who is holding her back to let her go, and she thinks that he is Lester, until she is shocked when she finds Brian the one who is holding her, and he comes out with a bag containing a syringe and prepares it because her hands are for Sarah, but Sarah knocks herself off the chair and breaks it to escape from the apartment quickly, and she finds her neighbor in front of her, so she begs for help to save her, but she finds that her same neighbor is with Brian too. Brian is able to electrocute Sarah, and all the neighbors will be in front of her, and she will tell them to save her, but no one is trying to help her, until she enters her apartment again and Brian drugs her and she passes out. As for her superiority, she finds herself in an empty room, which is close to her, and Jerry and Brian enter and tell her that she does not lose her voice in this wreck, and don't worry about it, that someone will look for it, because she quit her job. She cut ties with everyone she knew. They are the ones who did this to her through her mobile phone. And Brian asks her to stand up and look at the caution, but she refuses. Jerry understands that she is in a rehabilitation program, and if she sticks to their words, she will be rewarded. She disobeyed him, she will be punished like Lester, and they will call Lester so that Sarah will see what happens to whoever disobeys their words, and Lester will be punished for attacking Jerry before, and as for him trying to escape, he lost one of his eyes. Nor, as long as it is luminous, cannot move, and as soon as the lamp is turned off, it can move and rest at that time. Sarah prefers to resist the fatigue that the lamp feels in order to rest, and food is entered for her through the door, and after she eats and drinks, she comes back again to stand as she was. Hands come to her to keep her entertained while she is resting. And Sarah says that she herself was able to bear what happened. But Sarah understands that what is happening is madness. But Eddie understands that madness is entering the room of a place where pets are not allowed originally, or poisoning the body with narcotic drugs, or that someone leaves his family and does not want to deal with them under the pretext of independence in life, and that Jerry knows well how to rehabilitate the person and make him together. Sarah continues to stand, she does not get tired, and she falls on the ground, and at that time Brian and Jerry enter her and tell her that she violated their orders in the face of the time of punishment, and Brian comes out with a nail and a hammer and paws her hand in the precaution so that she cannot get them down again. She endures the pain and then pulls her hand to the outside to remove it from the precautionary screws and continues to abide by their orders. Jerry and Brian enter her and tell her that her first test is over, and you find the doctor who treats her reassuring her her hands will return to normal again, because her hands are the same. She got her costume. And after you get dressed, you go for the second test. It is a lie detector test in front of Jerry, because one of the housing laws is that there should be no secrets between neighbors, and they all remain exposed in front of each other. And at the end of the session, he asks her, if you want to stay within their community, you can't answer them, and he allows her to go back to her own room, and with her the book that she is supposed to take as a method in her life, and her every step remains monitored, and they allow her to walk in the residence, seeing what everyone does and learning from them, but she will remain a part of their community nearby, and she takes care of the remote that opens the door of the main building, and the one who stays with Jerry only because he is the manager, and Brian in the book in order to make sure that she has memorized it, and then he asks her to talk about the reason for her hatred of her father, so she says that her father betrayed her mother while she was sick with her nurse, and that she saw him and threatened him that she would tell her mother everything if he did not stop what he did, and he did not stop, and she could not tell her mother so that he does not increase, and her role comes to help the community. And she remains responsible for making food for the children who are not studying. Children learn from Charles's taped lessons to believe in his ideas. When Sarah's job is done, she finds that there is a knife in front of her, and she thinks that she is holding it and killing Jerry with it, but Lester from afar tells her not to, because he understood what she was thinking, so she turns back from her thoughts, and Sarah begins to participate in the neighbors sessions, and you find that if one of them confesses to a mistake, everyone hits him in the face with a pen, and then he treats him very normally, as if it's not wrong. As she increases her participation in them, she increases her responsibility and remains responsible with Brian for the surveillance camera. She takes into account that there is a camera watching them themselves, but she is not allowed to ask about who is watching them. She kept her up until she found all the neighbors coming to greet her, and she remembers them checking on her, but she is shocked when she realizes that they are coming to say goodbye to her because they intend to kill her because she is no longer able to help and contribute to society, and she cannot stand up because this is one of the laws of the building. And they make her a certain gas, and she is satisfied with what is happening in her, and her hands die in front of her while she is crying because she is not in her hands to do anything. After a while, Jerry decides that she has become part of society and is convinced of all his ideas. And they welcome her in their midst, and they put a sign behind it, and Jerry tells her that her role in the community will be to replace a member they recently lost due to her illness. While she is Lester's wife, she will replace her and marry Lester, and Sarah remains without any reaction, except that she is just smiling, and she moves to live with him, because her room will remain to choose new members, and another Jerry comes to her and says that there is a problem, which is that her father is in front of the building and is looking for her, and she must let him walk and not come back to this place again. Otherwise, she knows what could happen to him. Sarah goes to meet him in her room, and Ibrahim will be in the same room, because if Sarah takes any strange step, her father will be killed. As for Sarah, she meets her father and fights with him, and she tries to make him hate her in any way so that he doesn't come back again, and she grieves him and tells him that she has reached her mother did everything he did, and that's why she died of her grief, and she didn't want to see him again except at his funeral, and he walks and leaves it. It is decided that there is no girl left for him, and Sarah lives with them, and she can't help herself to do anything, until her room is offered for rent, and she finds that Lisa, her friend, is coming to watch her, and Jerry decides that he chooses her, and she moves to live in the building, and she tries to inform, but that Lisa is not easy to control, so they say that he is able to capture anyone, and they start to scare her by using the same sounds they used to play for Sarah the first time she moved, and they enter all her accounts and cut off her relationship with all people, and they send a letter with her name for her work, as if she is the one who quits work and passes Lisa through all the stages until she reaches her confinement in the room. As for Jerry and Bran, she quarrels with them and bites Ibrahim from his body, so they entered her Sarah to talk to her, but she refuses to hear it and tries to escape from the room. So Jerry hits her with her shoulder and decides to punish her. And he makes Sarah hold Adam in a tank in her hand to punish him with Lisa, but Sarah can't stand it and stabs Jerry with it, and you help Lisa escape from the room. But Jerry shoots Lisa and kills her. Sarah returns to him and keeps stabbing him until she kills him, and you take from him the gun and the key to the gate to escape from the place, and you find that there is a mark behind Jerry's den, and that he is also a soldier and not the president, and she tries to run away until all the neighbors surround her and they can't get close to her because of their fear of the gun, and Brian comes to her and tells her that they will not allow her to escape from the place, so you understand that Jerry is dead, and all of them remained free and able to escape. Brian explains to her that Jerry is not him, their teacher, and the teacher is Charles, the author of the book that taught them how to live, and they rated the foundations on which they would live. Although he died 30 years ago, his ideas are still alive. Ideas do not die. Brian tries to get close to Sarah, so she kills him and runs to the exit. But one of the neighbors catches her and Lester takes the gun from her to prevent her from escaping. Sarah tricks Lester into killing her and saving her from bachelors, but instead of killing her, he kills his colleague who is holding her. He tells her to flee immediately from the building, and after she runs away, he kills himself too. Sarah runs down the street. Finally, you feel free. But she takes into account that there is a building next to her in one room, which is also empty. And it has the same sign that was on the building from which he still escaped. Suddenly, the alarm system hits all over the street, and you discover that all the street followed by Charles' syndrome. Not one building, but an entire neighborhood that believes in Charles's ideas, and she runs away from him immediately before someone catches her. And she finally got her freedom. And don't forget to subscribe to the Ladybug Synopsis channel.